Welcome to our show. Today we're going to be talking to you about dairy. So a lot of us are really unsure about whether or not dairy is actually beneficial or necessary in our everyday foods. You know, a lot of research has been conducted on dairy, and some people actually think that we are the only species that continues to have dairy throughout its entire life cycle. Many other species just have dairy for a certain time as they're being born and they're growing, and then they stop after that. So today we're going to be exploring the topic of dairy and whether or not it's actually necessary. And dairy does have a lot of nutrients that we're going to look into. First of all, let's talk about the majority of people here. And we notice that many people here in Kuwait do suffer from some form of lactose intolerance. So they will be taking in some dairy, and especially milk that contains an abundant amount of lactose, which is the natural sugar found in milk. And what will happen is that they will get bloated or they will feel unwell. And this is their body trying to indicate to them that they are not really tolerating that substance, lactose, very well. So with that in mind, you really should be careful about taking in dairy products just from that perspective. If you ever feel that you're taking in anything and your body's not digesting it well, or it's bloating, or it's making you feel sick, then this is definitely a product that you do want to cut out. But on the other hand, dairy is a very nutritious product. So, you know, a cup of full-fat milk will have anywhere between 140 and 150 calories per cup, but it will also contain about 800 grams of protein, which is quite a substantial amount. It will also contain about 8 grams of fat and 12 grams of carbohydrates. So it's almost like a complete nutritious package. You get everything you need from it. You get the protein, you get the fat, and you get the carbs. But is it something that we do need to take, or are there alternatives like the fermented dairy products we find in Lebna and in yogurt and in Lebanon that actually has almost the same nutritional profile but with actually more benefits, like more probiotics? These are the topics that we're going to be exploring today, so please stay tuned. Welcome back, our dear viewers. So like we said, milk and other dairy products are definitely very nutritious and contain everything. And not only do they contain all the essential macronutrients, so the carbs, the proteins, and the fats that we need, but they also do contain a great amount of calcium, which brings us to the discussion that milk is needed for your bones. And now a lot of research has been conducted on whether or not you really need to be drinking milk to enhance the amount of calcium in your bones. And unfortunately, research is still inconclusive. So we're not really sure if it's milk or other calcium containing foods that could actually enhance the amount of calcium in your bones. It is good to keep in mind that some things like the simple seeds, they do contain a lot of calcium, especially sesame seeds. They're really a calcium powerhouse, and so do the fish that you can have with their bones. So small things like sardines that you can eat with their bones, or mackerel, where the bones are really small and you can eat the bones as well. Their bones do contain a great deal of calcium that you will be getting as well if you eat it. So you don't actually really need to rely on milk. And a lot of studies that have researched nations that rely heavily on milk realize that there was no difference on whether or not they had osteoporosis later on in life.
Best food for strong bones. Milk. If we are mentioning dairy products, then we can't miss out milk. There is a reason why milk is enough to feed an infant at an age where he needs all the nutrition he can get. Milk potentially has almost every nutrient present in it. A very well-known fact is that calcium is abundantly present in milk, which is needed by our bones. Take milk in any form: milkshakes, smoothies, tea, or anything. Make sure you have a steady intake of milk. It is very necessary. Soybeans. Soybeans are another excellent source of magnesium. About half cup cooked soybeans will meet approximately 20% of your daily magnesium needs. Edamame plain steamed soybeans make a great snack. You can incorporate them into salads and stir-fries for added protein and texture. For a delicious and different twist on a classic Middle Eastern dip, try our soybean hummus recipe. Almonds. Just 1 ounce of almonds provides about 20% of your daily magnesium needs. Almonds make a terrific snack on their own, just remember to watch portion size. 1 ounce of almonds contains about 164 calories, 3.4 grams fiber, and 15 grams fat, though only 1 gram saturated fat. They're also great as a topping for cereal, yogurt, or salads. Yogurt. Vitamin D is important for our bones to absorb calcium. Many turn to exercise and sunlight for vitamin D is produced in our body in sunlight as well. But for those who don't have much time can turn to yogurt or flavored yogurt because it is fortified with a good dose of vitamin D. Sardines. Calcium isn't worth mentioning if we don't talk about white meat. Sardines are a rich source of calcium, having a savory taste, and they are available in the market easily. If you can get them fresh, then that is good enough, or else they are present in cans almost in every region of the world now. Make a delicious pasta or salad with a little fish, as it has a high level of vitamin D as well as calcium in it. Cheese. Cheese is another cheesy dairy product that can provide you with a good enough amount of calcium and vitamin D, essential nutrients of the bones. Almost 1.5 ounces of cheese is enough for a day. Don't go one eating too much of cheese, as excess of everything is bad. Include it in your daily diet at any time during the day, even breakfast. Leafy greens. Leafy greens such as kale, spinach, Swiss chard and collard greens are very high in vitamin K. Just 1/2 cup of these greens, cooked, can contain more than 500% of the recommended daily amount of vitamin K. Egg. We all know about the goodness stored in little eggs. The yolk of the egg is basically a good source of vitamin D, and an egg is the most feasible source of vitamin D. So it is an ideal diet as it contains nutrition of all sorts. Consume it in different ways like French toasts, omelets, boiled, fried, etc. Vitamin D source. Salmon. Salmon is one of the best natural sources of vitamin D. Just 3.5 ounces of cooked salmon supplies about 90% of your daily vitamin D needs. What's more, salmon is a great source of protein and heart healthy omega-3 fats. Try to have at least 1 salmon dish every week. For a delicious dinner meal.
Definitely a good nutritious beverage to have, but not if you're only having it for calcium. Now, with many foods being fortified with calcium like cereals and orange juices, you don't really need the milk. But milk does provide other nutrients like potassium and like phosphorus and like also vitamin D. And these nutrients are also very essential, especially if you are very picky or finicky with the type of food you like to eat. But you do need to keep in mind that something like vitamin D that's found in milk is considered to be a fat-soluble vitamin. Therefore, it needs some amount of fat for it to be absorbed. So when you are consuming it for the vitamin D, make sure you are consuming full-fat milk, because that will help enhance the vitamin absorption in the milk and you will get more benefits out of it. Now stay tuned, because we're going to be discussing whether full-fat or low-fat milk should be your choice. Welcome back, our dear viewers. Here comes the big debate. Should we be having low-fat dairy products, or should we actually be focusing on the full-fat dairy products? It really depends. And I usually tell a lot of my patients it depends on how frequently you have the dairy products. If you're someone that has yogurt or leban or lebna or even milk once or twice every week, or maybe 3-4 times a week, once a day, then maybe you can go for the full fat option, because it definitely contains a whole variety of nutrients. But if you are someone that has more than 4 or 5 servings of dairy a day, then maybe a low fat option could be better. Although you should keep in mind that usually with a lot of the low fat options, they do substitute removing the fat with adding things like sugar, just to enhance the flavor and the taste of that product. So you are kind of, removing something but adding something else that could potentially be harmful to your health. So definitely the advice is to go for the full-fat dairy. A lot of research has been conducted on the importance of full-fat dairy, and they really found that people that did consume full-fat dairy that came from an organic source, so that came from cows that were grass-fed and that were able to move around, actually lowered their risk of obesity and even type 2 diabetes. So if you're unsure of the source of where your dairy is coming from, maybe sticking to the low-fat option is better. And with dairy, you really need to keep in mind that milk is not the only dairy of choice. Like I said, you have labna, you have laban, and you have yogurt, and these are all fermented, so they actually have more added probiotics in them that could be beneficial to you. Of course, the general recommendation is 3 servings of dairy. A serving is usually around 1 cup, so 1 cup of yogurt would be considered a serving, not more than that. When you are considering your dairy products, make sure they don't come with added flavorings. So some yogurts do come with fruits. Those will actually contain so many more calories. And actually I do advise that you consider a full-fat plain yogurt as opposed to a low-fat fruit-flavored yogurt that would probably be much higher in sugar and won't give you the essential nutrients that you would get from the full-fat option. We hope you enjoyed today's episode, and we'll see you all next time.